Welcome back. Ticha Penicheiro is one of the greatest point guards to ever do it. She's a WNBA champion, a four-time WNBA All-Star, in the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, and up until yesterday was the holder of the single-season assist record for rookies in the WNBA. That is, until Caitlin Clark broke that record that nearly stood for 30 years. We are so excited because Ticha is joining us this morning. How's it going?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. We so appreciate you being here. The morning after this record that you had for, God, close to 30 years is finally broken by Caitlin Clark. I know you wished that you could have been there in person. You had a birthday party to attend, but what did you think seeing it officially happen for Caitlin yesterday?
I mean, it was brewing. I knew it was going to happen. And like I said in my tweet yesterday, records are meant to be broken. I think it shows growth, evolution of the league. And as you know, the league is in great hands. And since Caitlin and Angel Reese and this rookie class came in, so much buzz has been going on. And obviously, she's doing an amazing job at what I think is the toughest position to play, especially in the pros, the point guard position. And she has done a pretty good job at it, I would say.
When you watch Caitlin Clark play basketball, what stands out to you in terms of her skill set, her prowess that has allowed her to make the marks and to break these records thus far just in her rookie season here in the league?
Where do I start? I mean, everything. As a point guard, she obviously makes her teammates better with her passing. Very high IQ, which you kind of need to be a point guard. To me, one thing that people don't talk about enough is also just her conditioning, the way she never stops. She plays over 35 minutes a game since college, and her pace is crazy, but she never gets tired. Obviously, we all know about the logo threes, but to me, and because obviously the way I played, I always really was impressed by her passing ability and the way she made her teammates better. And obviously, she has broken the single game record for assists with 19 right before the All-Star break. And now she has broken all types of records with assists. So just to solidify what I was thinking, her passing is very, I don't think people talked about it enough when she was in college because she had to take so many shots. But now with better teammates and a better system, she also is flourishing with the passing.
Yeah, we were talking about that a bit in the first segment. Like, it's the logo threes and the pull-ups and the big shooting performances that kind of draw somebody in and say, ooh, this girl's really fun to watch play basketball. You're never going to know where she's going to get the confidence to pull up from or how she's going to have kind of a scoring barrage that helped lead Iowa time and time again to wins, and especially when you get into March Madness. But people started to point out, like, hey, she's not just a shooter. Like, she really is a facilitator, and her passing might be the most impressive part of her game. And to get assists, your teammates have to make shots. How have you seen the Fever level up as a team with some of her teammates learning how to receive those passes, I should say? Whereas early in the season, we saw maybe a few more turnovers as chemistry was being built, but now they're able to finish.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of knew that they were going to struggle a little bit in the beginning just because you don't have much time in training camp to get ready. And it's a new team, a lot of new players, young players with not so much experience. And I think that the best thing that could happen to the Fever and to Caitlin Clark is this Olympic break that they just had, because they had another chance of another training camp. She had a chance to kind of get away from the cameras, rest a little bit, and then just polishing, what we already know. They are a good team. They have good talent. They're just young and inexperienced. So they had a chance for 2 weeks, 3 weeks to polish those skills. And I think the second half of the season, they are one of the teams to watch as they started 2-0.
What do you make of her opportunity to have had this break? And I saw you point out on Twitter even, like, just the understanding of what WNBA players are asked to do to go off to the Olympics, the one who are on Olympic rosters, and they go to the Olympics and they come right back. And while other Olympians can have this off period to vacation and go to a beach maybe, it's like, nope, you got to get right back for the continuation of the season, start making a push for the playoffs. And I know there was a lot of noise around Caitlin Clark not making that Olympic team, but how did you evaluate that when you saw that decision made, and ultimately how do you think perhaps that might have helped set Caitlin Clark up for this next chapter?
I honestly believe that it was the best thing that could happen to her, just because she really hadn't had a break, not just from basketball, but just mentally too. Always having a camera in your face. There's just so much expected of her individually and as a team. So I think this was the best thing that could happen to her. She had a chance to disconnect, to recharge, and I think she's refreshed. She was working. She said she was working on her floater. She's going to stay in the gym. So there's things obviously that she still can get better at, but she's already so good as a rookie. And as a team and individually, I really believe that this was the best thing that could happen to them as a unit and her as an individual.
There's been this narrative of jealousy around Caitlin Clark, and I want to get your take because you were in the league, you've been such a presence around the league, and now seeing how she has entered her professional career and some of the responses around that. Do you put stock in that argument that there's jealousy, or is it just representative of standard competition? This is sport.
I just think people made comments that were kind of misconstrued, and I believe, and I also believe that there's going to be a change. Like, as a point guard, a young point guard coming in and playing against real grown women that have been playing professional for a long time and playing the point guard position with Angel too. Like, it's going to be a learning curve that you're going to have to get used to it. And we saw the first game she had 10 turnovers, so there is a learning curve, and I don't think there's jealousy. I think people were just saying their opinion that she's not going to be this good right away. It's going to take a few games, maybe a season or two. So obviously she's kind of proving everybody wrong. But I don't think there was jealousy. I think there was a lot of people talking out of their mouth that never watched the WNBA before, and they don't know people's hearts. So I think she's amazing for the WNBA. She's amazing for the game to continue to move forward, and she brought a lot of new eyeballs into the league, which is what we want. We want to continue to grow, and she has done that by herself.
Ticha, you brought up the fact that playing point guard is the toughest position to play. What makes a good point guard? You would know, right? When you left, nobody had more than 2,000 assists in the NBA for their career. When you retired, you had 2,000. Since then, I think we've got 4 or 5 players on that 2,000-plus assist list. What makes a good point guard in the WNBA?
I mean, obviously, as a point guard, you are the coach on the floor. So running plays, calling the right plays, making your teammates better, always being turned on. Like, your switch always has to be on. Like, you always have to know score, time, how many fouls, how many timeouts. There's so much that relies on you. When your teammates mess up the plays, you got to kind of let them know. Be a leader. I mean, the checklist is so long. And like I said, for a rookie, she already checks all those boxes. So it's very impressive. I think her IQ also, it's what separates it from a lot of the point guards that are already in the league.
Ticha, we're playing some of your former highlights, and as a young short girl in the 90s who was a little wannabe point guard herself, that spin pass, when did you first twirl? Like, when did that become your signature? Do you remember?
I have no idea. I mean, honestly, sometimes I watch this, I don't even know how I did it. I think to me, it was just like an instinct thing. Obviously, I had amazing teammates that eventually learned how to play with me. And to me, it was just playing with the guys, and they always tried to block my shot or, be physical. And I just made a way to not get blocked or, pass the ball. So I really don't know some of these things, how I did it. It was just, I always say, is like, somebody's born with the talent of singing or drawing, and I think I was blessed with court vision and good instincts, and obviously I had amazing teammates and coaches that let me play and gave me the green light to be myself.
I wish I'd been born with that court vision.
My goodness, I might not be. Well, I'll be here. I'm too short.
Me too.
But, Ticha, we've had Nancy Lieberman on a couple of times. Do you guys have a relationship? Do you guys talk? Okay, what's that relationship been like?
Yeah, so Nancy and I, we went to the same school, Old Dominion University, but we went kind of, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years apart. She's a little older than me. So I remember when I got there, everybody was comparing me to Nancy. Okay, I went in 1994. Remember, there's no internet. So people talking to me about Nancy. I'm coming from Portugal. I have no idea who this lady is. I'm like, who is this Nancy? Because they're like, we heard you play like Nancy. We can't wait to watch you play. And I'm like, so I went up to my coach and I'm like, who is Nancy? Can you show me some stats, some videos, something to pull out the VHS tapes? I mean, I need to see who this lady is. And then when she showed me, I was like, oh, crap. Okay, I got big shoes to fill. But Nancy and I mean, since we met back in 94 when I was at Old Dominion, she's someone obviously that I respect tremendously. She was way ahead of her time back when she played. And, I call her my big sis. So it's someone that I respect tremendously, yes.
What's it like having to fill big shoes? I feel like Caitlin Clark is having to fill them for a different reason, but still, filling big shoes is filling big shoes. What was that like for you, being a young player, coming over from Portugal, not really knowing the American women's game like that? Everybody's saying, hey, you're like Nancy Lieberman, who at the time you could argue was the greatest women's basketball player of all time.
Well, I think to me and for Caitlin too, it kind of just happens organically. You can't put more pressure on you than is already there. So you just do what you're supposed to do. You practice hard, you study film, you trust your coaches and your teammates, and then you just play and you have fun with it. Obviously, Caitlin is also super competitive, so she wants to be the best player that she can be, but also win basketball games. And that's kind of how I did it. And then the comparisons are inevitable. People are always going to compare you to someone. And to me, I embraced it. I'm like, okay, if you guys tell me that I play like Nancy, I'm going to embrace it because you're not comparing me to nobody.
Right.
Nancy, someone that kind of set the standards, and I wanted to bring the joy and the glory back to Old Dominion like she did. And but to me, those things kind of happen organically. You do what you're supposed to do, and those comparisons will come, and then the records and all of that, it just happens organically.
You got to a championship game at Old Dominion, correct?
Correct.
Who did you play? Was it Tennessee, UConn? Am I missing
Tennessee.
somebody? It was
Tennessee.
Tennessee. It was Pat Summitt.
1997, Cincinnati, Ohio. We played Stanford, which they were the favorites at the time.
Okay.
So we played Stanford in the semifinals. Crazy. We were down by 17, tie the game, go to overtime, we win, and then we had to play Tennessee in the finals. And same thing, we were down by 17, tie the game, and then I think we just ran out of gas, and they eventually won the game. Yeah.
When you went into the league, was it the same situation that it is now where it's so quick? Like March Madness ends, it's the draft, it's training camp, and the season starts?
Yes.
So it's always been that way.
Yeah, it's always been that way. You really have no time to relax and really gather yourself. I mean, you win a championship and you don't even have time to, really take it all in. It's like, okay, well, I got to decide what I'm going to wear for the draft, and I got to, go to New York and do all of that. I mean, my draft was a little bit different. We were not even live. We were in a studio in New Jersey, and he said, Tisha, you going to Sacramento when the camera's on you? Just act like you're surprised. I'm like, okay. So times have definitely evolved with red carpets, and there's so much media coverage now. So as one of the pioneers in the WNBA coming in '98, it's really, really good. And it's a proud moment to see how much we have grown.
Who are some of the other players that you love to watch right now that you see as kind of torchbearers in the WNBA as setting the standard?
Well, I'm obviously a little, point guard driven.
Biased.
So I say Chelsea Gray, which obviously she didn't start the season with some injuries, but she's someone that I've admired for a long time. Courtney Vandersloot is also, we actually were teammates in Chicago my last year in 2012. And she also has passed me in assists. I think those two are the last old school point guards where they are like pass first. I don't think I'm going to put Caitlin in that regard, even though she passes the ball and like crazy. I think she has a scorer's mentality. But I think those two, and then obviously, I just think that the WNBA is in great hands with so many great young players coming in and being a factor right away.
You were a WNBA champion with the Monarchs. The Monarchs are no longer around, but the WNBA is talking about expansion. You were there when they had to disband the Monarchs. What do you think can be learned by the WNBA as they go look forward to expansion and continue to try and grow the sport? Because I don't want things to happen where, all right, we're expanding, and then I look up 3, 4, 5 years later and teams are disbanding again.
I think having an owner that really cares about women's sports, that really is invested, is not doing it as a charity or a tax write-off. And I think we're seeing that now. We're seeing a lot of owners that are invested. I mean, you see Mark Davis with the Aces. Sometimes the Raiders are playing, and he's sitting courtside at the Aces games. So just really having owners, obviously putting in a city where you enjoy women's basketball, you have women's basketball fans, and then just putting out the good product and people giving us a chance. I think the product has been there for the last few years. I think the women are doing their thing, but sometimes you have a lot of haters out there that still believe that women belong in the kitchens. So it's good to see attendance going up, viewership, all these TV deals being signed for a lot of money, because the women have worked really, really hard to be where we are now, and we deserve it.
Okay, because you are the point guard whisperer, and she's a point guard, shooting guard hybrid, but what are your thoughts on Juju Watkins as a former or forever USC Trojan myself? I'm pretty excited to watch this next generation continue to carry over the excitement that has been driven by Caitlin and Angel Reese and Cameron Brink, who is out for the season. But these players that people really started to follow heavily in college who are now in the WNBA, then looking at the next grouping of a Paige Beckers or a Juju Watkins, per se.
I mean, Juju can be an all-star right now if she was playing in the WNBA. I think her skill set, she's a generational talent that they just come around once in a while. And as a freshman, I mean, to see the things that she's doing, it's insane. The bad thing is that we still have to wait a few years for her to get, the women is a little different. So
Yeah.
we have to wait a few years for her to get into the WNBA. But like I said, generational talent. She's so polished already. And she's a joy to watch. Same thing with Paige. Obviously she's had some injuries that kind of slow down a little bit, but I think she's going to have a really big season with Connecticut this year.
Do you think that's still the right move for women's basketball, that they have to play in college longer still?
Unfortunately, yes. I mean, now with NIL, things are a little bit different because players actually make good money coming in. I mean, Juju has a bigger bank account than I had, and I play already 15 years of professional basketball. But still, the money, the salaries are not there yet, because if a player has like a season-ending injury or maybe a career-ending injury that they really have a hard time, then you don't have a degree to fall back on, and then maybe you never can play basketball forever. So I think the money is not there where people can, take those leaps of not, getting your degree.
Excellent. One more question before we let you go, and we so appreciate you taking the time this morning. I realized I wanted to ask, because so many of us, started watching Caitlin Clark at Iowa, and maybe we remember a certain game throughout March Madness or that first national championship game where she falls short, but still, such a moment for the game. Do you remember the first time you saw Caitlin play?
Probably when she was a sophomore. Yeah. And it's right away. Like I said, it's some players you watch, even you don't have to watch a game. You can watch them warm up, and they're special. Obviously, she's one of those that you watch her play, and right away in one or two plays, you realize how special she is. Just the way she runs, the way she moves, the way she controls the game. So I don't know specifically the game, the first game that I watched, but I think she was a sophomore, and I was like, she's going to be special. She's already special, but she's going to be very special.
Well, that's the truest example of game recognized game and being able to scout something special from a while back. Ticha, we so appreciate you taking the time. We love the thing that you said about records are meant to be broken. It represents growth. It represents evolution. But it is still pretty dang impressive that your record stood for almost 30 years. So hopefully we'll catch up with you again sometime soon, and we wish you the best.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. That was Ticha Penicheiro. Woo, that was awesome, CJ.
Incredible. One of the greats in women's basketball.
The Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hurt, live every weekday at 8 a.m.